You're most likely aware that a number of polls were conducted recently, and his numbers are really tanking. And of special concern would be that the two key metrics where he's usually strong, immigration and the economy, are not doing well at all. And of course, we also know that it's all, or pretty much all, self-inflicted. But nevertheless, that's what's happening. And when you realize that, astrologically speaking, he is under a lot of Jupiter, that is even more cause for concern. Now, of course, it is true that because he's born on a full moon, when you get a Jupiter to your moon or to your sun, it means it has to oppose the other planet. And that does make it more complicated than if it were in a trine formation to either end. But nevertheless, Jupiter is his ace planet, and things just are not working out at all. And this is a case in part because, as I've said a number of times in the past, Jupiter does not always necessarily help you, especially in opposition square patterns. And I've seen even cases of conjunctions when there is enough surrounding energy that is very challenging, and there certainly is, because pretty much all the biggies, namely Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Eris, they're all agitating in ways that are very unfavorable to him. For example, right now, as we speak, Uranus is right up there at the top of his chart, near his midheaven and approaching the zenith point, the high points in the chart, and squaring his Mars. And this is going to continue for the next month or so, even while, yes, it's true that Jupiter will go over his sun, but that ensnares the moon in an opposition. I'm not really seeing very much that would get in any way better, to be quite honest. There just isn't much. And then you begin to, in a sense, reframe, reassess the whole election thing, because this is starting to look like, if we look at the chart of an ordinary person, they're up for a big job, they're under Jupiter, maybe they even know a little bit of astrology, and they say, well, see, I've got this Jupiter, isn't it great? Most astrologers will also say, well, you do realize that there's a lot of swirling energy around it going into next year, the year after. Does that not concern you? Are there potential problems in the job? Oh, no, everything is fine. Of course, that's what someone like Trump would say. But becoming U.S. president is extremely challenging for anybody, and especially for him, because, let's face it, this is, to my understanding, the biggest con job ever perpetrated on an electorate, although the electorate voted for him, so now they have what they wanted. They were willing to believe that a person who is so obviously a pathological liar and a con man would take them to the promised land based on some inane theory of his economic expertise. His economic expertise was writing out Obama's economy and then essentially ruining it during COVID and ruining everybody's confidence during COVID by the way he transacted that crisis. So now he's having to face the music. And once you start looking at where he is and what's ahead, there's not a lot of daylight here, because now we know, for example, that Saturn was definitely hurting him in the March period, and right at the end of March, early April, he implements the tariffs right under Saturn, which is something that sometimes happens to a person. Saturn is there in a square in opposition, and a move is made that turns out to be very wrong. But then, forward from that, the way his chart is set up, what happens is there's the square to the moon, because it's in the 21-degree range of Sagittarius. Then there is the square to the sun, because it's a little further in, 23 degrees, Gemini. But after that, he has the Saturn-Venus conjunction in Cancer, which turns it into a trine which would be after the tariffs, for example, say last week, the week before, I'm not seeing any benefit at all from that trine. To me, this has the feeling of it's proximal enough to the sun and to the moon that it's basically massive square energy, which is very challenging. And when you look to the upcoming cycles as we go into the end of the year, this intensifies. It gets worse because Saturn is signaling now. It's telling you there will be a station at the end of the year in these very degrees. Now, this is the tariff side of it, right? Because that's that house. The 8th is where you talk about taxes, tariffs. It's a money house, essentially. So that's one angle. But then, 2026 is no better based on the fact that once it goes into Aries, Saturn does, where it'll stay for the next 2+ years, then we're talking about the immigration side of things, the law, the judiciary. None of that is going well either. So, I don't know what to say. All I can say is let's see if something positive emerges for him over the next month. But quite honestly, I'm not seeing it. Another pretty interesting marker here is that the election is currently in the thick of it happening in Canada. And something I didn't mention in the Canada election video that I made yesterday is that Carney's planets, and it's looking like Carney is likely to be the victor, which would make him the leader of Canada, and therefore who Trump would have to interact with. And pretty sure if you asked Trump, he would tell you he would much prefer the other guy, Bolivia or Pipi over there. But I don't think that's going to happen. Now, what's curious is that the Carney chart, if you look at it, the main point is a lot of planets in Virgo, a lot of planets in Pisces. Those planets square Trump's sun and moon. They're all parked across his money houses, including the tariff house. It's very reflective of the situation, but what it's telling you is that this person is going to be a pain in the neck for Trump. It's going to be a constant hassle, and it's definitely another defeat, because what we've seen here pretty clearly is that Trump would love to see an oligarchic world in which people like he and Putin control everything, the ultra-masculine, ultra-oligarchic world. But his entry into the U.S. presidency, what it has done is alarm the world enough that, for example, in Canada, where it was looking like the Conservatives were going to win, all of a sudden it's tilted the other way. And the same thing is happening in Australia, and I'm betting it's going to happen in more places. So I suppose the way to summarize this whole thing is, once again, to encourage everyone to hang in there and see it out. We have to continue to resist, and unfortunately we have to accept the fact that it'll be through some suffering for us as well, because that's what he's inflicting on the country, which, by the way, that's already happening. I track a Chinese site that sells a lot of trinkety stuff, but a lot of it very useful: computer cables, batteries, flashlights, all kinds of things that are very useful. And I know because I'll check the prices, and in the last couple of weeks, they've more than doubled. I'm not kidding about that. It's 100% happening, to which you add all kinds of goods waiting in ports that people now have to decide, do I buy them? Do I think I can sell them? Because all of this affects American business. So it's just totally shocking that a person, and much as a president, would do something, so completely, so stupendously stupid. But he did, and he probably too realizes that he wish he could back down, but that's almost like against his DNA. And to those who say he doesn't care, he's not thinking about it, well, then why is he tweeting like crazy in that pseudo Twitter truth anti-social social media thing that he runs? He's tweeting away. Now he wants investigations of the pollsters. Supposedly they're creating fake news. And, this kind of thing for a while can work, and that his base, with the help of Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, etc., they can hold it together for a while out of just sheer loyalty and the expectation, which is totally wrong and false, that things will get better later. You keep saying a little bit of suffering now and then things will get better. I'm not buying it, and you do know that it's bothering him, because otherwise he wouldn't be as frenetic and as, quite frankly, as hysterical as he is being. All right, that's all for now. And bottom line, once again, stay calm, continue resisting. Let's all hang in there and see this out.